All right. Thank you, Jean, Roseanne, Francis, for organizing this wonderful event, and I'm very excited to be here, witnessing passing of a group of individuals to an exciting career. But let there be no doubt, it will be an anxious moment from the here on, because until now, all that you cared for was good grade, and now it's much more important aspects like keeping people alive. So you might still very quickly realize getting grades was a much easier task than. And it's funny because I feel like a fish out of water because I come from the big bad world of business. I have a degree in business. I have worked in the business world where I was a media planner for Pantene shampoo and aftershave, Old Spice aftershave in India. To soon realize that that was not satisfying enough, so I switched sides and I've gone to social marketing. And so it's interesting that when I asked for water, Jean gave me a cup of Coke. No, that's good. But just so you know, there's water inside, so I don't feel guilty. And it's also important because way back in 1950s, one of the first articles that was written on social marketing was titled as, "Can we sell brotherhood like soap?" And so the title I think I should have on my presentation should be, "Can we sell healthy food like Coke?" And if we can do that, if you guys can do that, then we will have achieved the success that we are seeking. Since how many now? 50-60% of Canadians are on the verge of obesity. You have a huge amount of people who are lying on the survey research that they are physically active, and when a result came out recently from the Canadian Obesity Network, they said only 1/3 of those were really telling the truth. All right. So very quickly, as Jean said, I am from the Center for Socially Responsible Marketing from the city of Lethbridge, which is much smaller than where I was born, which is Bombay. I think there are as many Deshpandes as there are people in Lethbridge in Bombay. So the center that we have created has this mission to teach, do research, supervise research in the areas of these social marketing, CSR, and nonprofit marketing. I do work in social marketing and to some extent in cause marketing, but my real satisfaction absolutely comes from looking at, and I have to say this, looking at trying to convince young men to be to be safe. That's what you find from my research record, that most of my work is related to alcohol and most of my work relates to young men. I don't know what's with them. But when you bring that together, things happen. And so when I give these kind of lectures, especially to students, I tell young women to be aware of this species called young men because they can be dangerous. But they keep me busy. There's a lot of grant funding for that. And so I guess I do a lot of stuff of trying to convince them to drink responsibly, which have completely failed. I tried that at Wisconsin campus and it didn't work at all. Drinking and driving, where we succeeded in the state of Wisconsin. We tried to convince them to wear protective gear in British Columbia, some success there. So the whole objective for today is to give you an outline of various attempts of influencing individual behavior. And so we have three options: social marketing, education, and law. And I've repeated this many times, so people like Derek Larson, who have heard me now the third time, can actually speak on my behalf because you have heard me so many times now. You can just behave as Samir Deshpande from next time. I will also then conclude what is and what is not social marketing, touch a few things about marketing strategy, and then while going through all these topics, I will touch upon a few things that I felt participants ask me during the training sessions, which I carry out quite a few times for the government and the nonprofit sector. All right, so the three major strategic tools that are used to influence individual behavior change, as discussed by Rothschild, are education, marketing, and law. All three are influencing individual behavior, so sociologists sitting here might cringe a bit saying, oh, what about the societal influence? Yes, they do influence, but as a more of a psychologist bent of mind, my discussion is more from the individual behavior point of view. All three, in a way, are trying to go through the basic consumer behavior model of creating awareness, trying to convince individuals that it's good to carry out the good behavior and ultimately to influence that. However, those three tools differ by the emphasis. So education tends to be more on the awareness and the attitude side. Marketing is on the behavior side. Those two are voluntary attempts. Law is non-voluntary. And of course, there are major differences between the three, although I will focus more about the differences between education and marketing because there is a lot of confusion about it. In fact, just on Tuesday, I was on the advisory panel of Alberta Healthy Living, and there's some new strategy coming out for the next 3 years. And boy, was there confusion between education and marketing. And so this battle that we are fighting for last, 25 years, not me personally, but the field continues to this day because of this confusion. So very quickly, in terms of drinking and driving context, there are lots of good laws, and British Columbia, for example, has now come up, last 2 years ago, came up with a very strict law about how to keep people off the road once they are under the influence of alcohol. It works for many individuals except for, again, young men. And so law does not work there. Then you have attempts like education, that's the middle one, where people are told about the consequences of carrying out the new behavior. They are told to think for themselves that it's good for them to carry out the desirable behavior. And the assumption is then that will influence their behavior. We know most of the individuals in society do not think. Okay? And hence, education does not work for those who do not think. And those who think, they think for themselves. They do not think for others. So if you nutritionists actually have a care for others, you are exceptional. You are, I'm sorry to say, nerds. Because you think for others. You do not represent the majority. Which is important to understand, because if you're going to work with those who are the majority, who are the real people, then you have to understand them, you have to try to empathize with them, you need to conduct research. You cannot make assumptions, you cannot have preconceived notions of what works and what does not work, because we really do not. And I'm not the only one sitting in the ivory tower. A lot of people in the government and the non-profit sector are sitting in the ivory tower, assuming that they know things. And so the third visual is a marketing attempt, a campaign called Road Crew, where I was involved at least at the initial stages in the state of Wisconsin, where we created an alternative ride and hence influenced the environment to make taking alternative rides more attractive than drinking and driving. And so this roadcrewonline.org website, you can go there and check for yourself all the details, actually said that the party will continue even after you leave the bar. And so this particular ad that was used in the campaign said, guess who's not worried about driving tonight? It's not big enough for me to read the text, but it goes on to say that Dave is not worried because there's an alternative ride called Road Crew that is taking care of his transportation needs for the night. And I can go on and on about that campaign, but of course we don't have time. But this campaign did work in the state of Wisconsin. The highway-related, alcohol-related highway injuries went down by 17% in a year. And most of the rides were taken by young men who had never ever responded to all those cute educational campaigns showing charred bodies and smashed cars. They had not worked for these guys, but when we said the party will continue, it did work for them. And some of you, I'm sure, will empathize with that feeling since you are still in the university. All right, so what are the big differences between the three? We use Rothschild's model of some psychological factors. There are individuals who are already prone to change their behavior. Education might be useful for them. If they are resistant to behave, but you want to be on the right side of the law, law should be useful. But there's a huge number of people in between who will respond to campaigns if you offer them the right benefits. And that's the key message from my side I bring from the world of Coke, is that they don't talk about charred lungs and smashed bodies. They don't talk about how what are the consequences of drinking Pepsi. They talk about the benefits of drinking Coke. So they focus on what's good about their product rather than focusing on what's bad about the competition. Pepsi does that, but not without concluding in the end how good they are. Okay? And then you can also use motivation, opportunity, and ability, where you're saying if individuals are already motivated to change their behavior, if they feel they have the efficacy to carry out that behavior, and if they have the opportunity in the environment to carry out that behavior, they will more likely respond to your educational campaign. All they need is information. So 1964 Surgeon General's report, for the first time declaring smoking causes cancer, is a good linkage which may have influenced certain sections of society to give up smoking. But you know, between 1964 and 2011, a lot of things have happened in the smoking movement, in addition to just creating nice brochures and posters, to see the change in which we have gone from whatever levels there were in 1960s to where we are today, which is around 15-20%. It takes that much time, it takes that much effort, it takes all those stakeholders to join the movement if you really want to tackle the movement of obesity. Okay? Again, do not expect the world to change by creating a brochure. And I'm looking for an example here, but I didn't find one. Brochures don't change world. Facebook did not create Egyptian revolution. So we need marketing when there is lack of opportunity and when we need to show and manage benefits. So I'm going to skip a couple of slides just to show you an example of Sid's campaign. I believe education was sufficient here because young moms, I believe, are sufficiently motivated to keep their babies alive, I'm told. I have 2 kids myself, so I know my wife went through a bit of an agony through 9 months. I believe she has the ability to keep her baby alive and to put the baby on the back when putting him or her to sleep. And I don't think she needs an opportunity to put the baby on the back. In this situation, all that you require is awareness. All that you require is awareness at the right time. And hence, Health Canada collaborating with Pampers and putting the back to sleep message on every flap of the Pampers diaper, thus creating a just-in-time concept for communication, was appropriate. You did not require a marketing campaign. An ad from Health Canada, I think, saw a huge decline in SIDS syndrome over the years. So what are the similarities between education and marketing? Both of those strategies are, at the end of the day, trying to create awareness and influence attitude with the hope that behavior change will occur. Both are voluntary in nature, both try to identify the target audience members in terms of groups and tailor their campaign. They try to analyze the target audience members, but there are differences in how they analyze. And so this table from Doug Mackenzie Moore and Bill Smith in their 1999 book, Fostering Sustainable Behavior, is very useful from my perspective because it allows us to analyze them from their perspective. I've already declared you guys are nerds, so I don't want you to fill this table. I want you to ask them to fill this table, your target audience. And it also allows us to come up with good strategy. So what do we want? We want them to fill this table and ask, what benefits do you get from the current behavior? That cell number 1 is basically telling us why they are doing what they are doing. Why are they eating that junk food? What are the top 3 reasons how we choose our food? What are the top 3 reasons? taste, convenience, cost. My God, these are health professionals sitting here. I didn't hear the H word here. I'm glad you guys are in touch with the reality. That's how we choose our food. And what are our campaigns talking about? Oh, you will you'll live longer. Who cares? Oh, there's a 40% chance you will not get a heart attack 40 years down the road. I really don't care. And all this while, I blame the younger population, oh, they are so short-term oriented. Well, we know seniors are short-term oriented too. Why? Because what population are you seeing the highest increase in HIV/AIDS in Canada? Seniors. They want fun. They want fun right now. And somehow the HIV/AIDS movement of the 1980s skipped the senior population. They never got the message on condoms and responsible fun. Yeah. So we now need condom vending machines in senior homes. That's my new message. It's not sufficient to put condom vending machines in college dorms. So most of us are seeking fun. Most of us are seeking fun right now. Most of us are seeking fun that we need, it is guaranteed. Those are the benefits we are seeking. Those are the benefits we are seeking across behaviors. Commercial marketers understand that, Coke understands that, and it exploits it. It provides those benefits. It creates, it enchants us. There was a nice interview on CBC last afternoon about enchanting. And he did say that you can enchant, but you better follow up that with a good product. And so you can do enchanting through brochures, but you need to actually offer something tangible, something perceptual, so both of them, if you really want individuals to follow up on the new behaviors. So cell number 1 is the most critical of those cells because it is really giving us key to what consumers are, or target audience members are looking for. That's what we should be providing through cell number 3. So cell number 1 gives us the hint of what needs to be given in cell number 3. And so at the end of the day, if you really want to beat the competition, and in social marketing, current behavior is the competition, then cell number 3 has to be perceived superior to cell number 1. So I want you guys to become benefit oriented from their perspective. And you also need to offer cell number 3 in such a way that it is superior, or it is perceived superior to cell number 4. So the barriers that they're facing should be considered to be less than the benefits that they're getting from the desired behavior. So even if you take care of this, it sounds very simple academically speaking. If you can take care of these two equations, ensuring cell number 3 is more than 1 and more than 4, from their perspective, then you will have succeeded in your attempt. So we need to offer healthy food and physical activity in such a way that is considered to be superior to junk food and to laziness. Can we make physical activity as sexy as sitting on the sofa? That's your challenge. And so every time, and I'm looking at this younger crowd getting into the real world, every time a client comes into your room looking for suggestions of what should I do to fix my problem, whatever it could be, overweight, morbid obesity, whatever it could be, they're looking for solutions that are tasty, cost-effective, and conveniently available. And those are the tools you need to have with you. To do that, you need to ask questions to them. I know you guys have less time to talk to those patients, but if possible, that's what you need to do. And so the big difference, there are two big differences between education and marketing. Number 1 is marketers try to understand those current behaviors, try to understand the benefits that drive individuals to carry out those current behaviors. It answers the question, why am I doing what am I doing today? And then how can I create strategies that will allow them to get the same benefits with the fewer consequences from the desired behavior. The second big difference is the kind of strategy that we are offering. It's pretty comprehensive, and I spent an entire day talking about this. I teach an entire class on this through the semester in Lethbridge. So we're talking about offering opportunity in the environment that is considered to be cost-effective, conveniently available, and perceived to be attractive, popular, and easy. 3 important words that are considered to be essential in social marketing is how can we make the new behaviors fun, easy, and popular. Because people want to do something that is fun, that is easy to carry out, and something that is perceived as popular by the people that I care for. And so in the binge drinking movement, which is failing hopelessly on college campuses, and Canada is fast picking up with Americans on binge drinking, and congratulations women, because now you're drinking as much as men are, good for you, which means all we have done is stagnated the levels, we have not really made any dent in it. It really shows me that we're talking about things that they don't care for. So if we can make responsible drinking fun, easy, and popular as we do to the binge drinking behavior, that's what we need to do. And this fun, easy, and popular is just a layman's language for if you must have learned theory of planned behavior. So academics try to come up with buzzwords that really mean nothing but simple words. All right, so to summarize, education is focused on knowledge and attitude, while marketing is more behavior-centric. All the strategies should be behavior-centric. We are not in this day and age trying to use tax dollars to create enlightened citizen. That's the best you can expect from a brochure. Enlightened citizen, not a person who is moving. So if you want to move the needle, we need to go beyond enlightenment to changing behavior kind of strategies. And marketing is about altering environment, not just creating awareness. All right, so I'll give you a few examples. Nutrition labels is education. It's creating enlightenment in the store. And my God, we have 7 seconds per food product that we dump in our cart. That's the research from retail management, 7 seconds per brand. If you expect consumers to really go through your lengthy barrage of information in small print, not going to happen. So we need to offer food that offers the benefits. Here's Wonder Bread. This is promotion in social marketing framework, because they have come up with a bread, you have seen it, you have tried it, which has the same great taste, but less sodium. On this point, keep in mind, this is not education. Number 2, promotion is the most visible aspect of any marketing campaign, but a very small component of a marketing campaign. So do not assume what you see is what really happens in marketing campaign. It's just the tip of the iceberg. A lot more things happen before Coke actually creates its ad. And we'll end up just creating ads. We don't do much of the homework that is required in the social field. One important question that comes up is how important are nutrition labels? Are they effective? Okay, so we did some studies here. We asked this research question, and I say our paper is PIP, it's paper in progress. It means it has been in progress for a few years. Academics don't have deadlines, so some of you are agreeing with me. So we can work at our own pace, and we can take vacations when we want. The only time that we really work is when we teach. That's what my wife thinks. So one important question is, we try to ask who takes the effort to process information on food in terms of nutrition labels. Do they use any shortcuts, any heuristics? So we did 3 studies. One was the Porter Novelli Health Styles data, which is a survey that is conducted in the US, good sample size. Then we conducted study 2 with our college students, where we examined the effects of nutritional instructions. And then finally we went to, as we call in the academic world, real people, where we examined the effects with people with pre-existing health conditions. What we in general found is people with no health condition do a very poor job of reading nutrition labels. only those who have pre-existing health conditions, so we had two of them, CVD and diabetes, they had their own understanding of what I must be looking for in a nutrition label, and so cholesterol, sodium, fat, so on and so forth. That's what was used as a heuristic. That's what was observed in a nutrition label, irrespective of the length of the label, because a few years ago Canadian government was thinking of how long should the label length be. Well, it does not matter because individuals don't care. What they care is, do I have a heuristic in mind when I spend my 7 seconds to choose a brand? So nutrition labels are useful for those, and they are used by those who have a pre-existing health condition. If you are expecting people to prevent health conditions, nutrition labels are not going to be useful. All right. A second study, which so we extended our study 3, which is individuals who had this experiment with people over 40 with existing health conditions. We compared their information processing with dietitians. And I know this is going to be a controversial slide, or the next 3 slides are going to be controversial. What we did, we actually examined the information processing mechanisms of consumers and dietitians. So again, we had folks in no health conditions, CVD and diabetes, and then we asked dietitians to choose nutrients, and we checked their mental accounting accuracy and we assumed that you're working for clients with no health conditions, CVD and diabetes, and then we compared these groups, okay? Well, the story in a nutshell is we found similar focuses, food choices, predictability, and mental accounting by both the groups on all 3 areas of expertise: body of knowledge, better processing skills, and greater facility for mental accounting. So we concluded that nutrition labels benefit both the groups, but there is no real difference in how layperson approaches a nutrition label as a dietitian. Can I run now? So all the years that you spent here, folks, you could have done the same job 4 years ago. So what you're seeing here is so I'll show you 3 tables. One is showing the importance of nutrients among people who have no health condition, although our paper gets into the other conditions. And you'll find some differences here and there, but more or less it's a general same pattern in the same direction. If you look at the total nutrients of food selection, again, there are some differences, but not a huge one. And if you look at the mental accounting accuracy, again, we are in the same direction. So, okay, I promise that's the only controversial aspect of this presentation. So let's discuss 3 more examples differentiating marketing and education. This one is about physical activity. I love this example where you have CDC, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention from the US, focusing on education, while you have a commercial organization like Gold's Gym, which has realized how to attract young moms. Well, if the biggest barrier to try a gym is your child, well, we'll take care of your child. And that, I think, was a barrier that was addressed through a social marketing. It's a commercial marketing example that gets into social marketing realm. Example from smoking, where you have Johnson & Johnson or even ADAC that has a tangible product or an intangible service that I feel might go a long way to overcome the issues of efficacy and barriers rather than just talking about it. And then you have an example of FAS prevention campaign of alcohol consumption among pregnant women. And so Saskatchewan Prevention Institute has come up with this ad campaign. And then you have a Calgary club trying to bring friends together to socialize and trying to reduce the need to drink during pregnancy. On that note, it is important to touch upon the unintended effects of communication and promotional efforts. So scholars have recommended that one should be careful to shift focus away from health outcomes, because at least in the obesity campaigns, one has seen that it can have an unintended effect on self-esteem. So with my student Jennifer Dooley, in her master's thesis, she looked at these 4 ads and compared whether there was any influence on adolescents through this obesity prevention messages. In general, what we found was health benefit or health messages were no worse than other kinds of messages, which was health benefit, control ad, and positive experience. So body image ad in a way was no different from other kinds of ads than or less effective. So that's a good news. But again, don't forget that these messages can be useful only among those who are already motivated, able, and have the opportunity to change the behavior. Another question that gets asked all the time is, oh, we all love fear. We love to scare people because we know fear changes behavior. Another myth, there are lots of myths in the social field. So one myth is brochure changed Egypt. Second myth is fear achieves all our social goals. So what we did was we, in a different study on work safety among young men in British Columbia, we applied a model called extended parallel process model of Kim Whitty, who said that you can use fear, but it has to be combined with efficacy if it has to be effective. And so we tested that in our study, and we found that yes, when you combine fear and efficacy, it is more effective than using only fear and only efficacy. There was a fascinating campaign that took place in Alberta 3-4 years ago called bloodylucky.ca. Have you seen any of you? You can go on the website bloodylucky.ca. It targets younger workers to be safe at workplaces. It takes fear to a new level in terms of fear and to a new level in terms of failure. Because they didn't combine fear with efficacy. And we have this research available to us, but unfortunately it is not being used in practice. So my message to you guys is, if you want to scare the hell out of your clients, do it, but give them solutions. Don't just leave them hanging. Okay? All right, I'm not here to recommend that you should replace education and law with marketing. I'm asking you to consider it to add marketing to your existing toolkit, give marketing a chance. And so here's 3 visuals from my campus, and you'll see this everywhere, where you have a good example of law and education being combined. The second visual is about marketing, but I think the third visual, which brings together education, marketing, and law, is going to be more effective than just using one of the toolkits. All right, so what am I saying here? I'm saying use social marketing because it's a powerful behavior management tool. Go beyond awareness. Care for those whom you are trying to change. It's not just asking them questions, it's actually trying to empathize with them. Listen for a change. That's a pun. And so when you offer something in your strategy, offer something that is positive in terms of behavior, benefits, and alternatives. All right, so what social marketing is not, it is not brochure, it is not poster. When I talk to individuals in the community, I ask them to put a moratorium on all brochure printing for the next 6 months because it doesn't work. It's very hard because the very first meeting that happens in a social change campaign management teams is to decide what color should be my brochure. And I say, that's step 7 in the marketing planning process. Social media is not social marketing. If you Google social marketing, you'll get 99% of the sites that talk about Facebook and Orkut and LinkedIn. They have taken our term, and we have no way to fight them because they are much bigger than we are. And so they have hijacked our phrase, although we are 70 years older than they are. So there is a confusion now that all that when the media allows you to socialize, you're doing social marketing. It is not. All right. So I'm now going to focus for a few minutes on the basic concepts of social marketing, and then I'll take some questions. All right, so there are a few things that one has to keep in mind. The most important thing is consumer orientation, which is why you need research to keep in touch with your audience individuals. And I'll go through some of the other concepts in a minute. So here's an example of a study that we conducted on Lethbridge campus on healthy eating habits, and we compared how males and females differed. What we found, and this is what gets into how you need to create campaigns tailored to segments. I'm not even today seeing healthy diet campaigns that are tailored to specific segments. As simple as gender. They differ. Males and females are different. That might be news to you guys. And it influences how they choose their food. So what we found was females do have a higher intention to consume a healthy diet, and we did find that they give higher importance to eating healthy diet, and they do give higher importance to benefits. But the two important differences that you see from this slide are, number one, the link between, can I see the laser? Yeah. Perceived susceptibility and importance of eating healthy. Females do believe there's a link between the two, while males do not. That's one important difference. And the second important difference is females actually see a link between food features and the barriers, which influences likelihood to eat healthy, while males do not. What that tells me, based on this study, is that you need to create campaigns which increase perceived susceptibility to women. If you do not give importance to a healthy diet, you will suffer the consequences. And again, that's the fear aspect. You have to add solution to the fear. Males will not respond to that campaign, I think. Second important aspect is food features. Food features was conceptualized or operationalized as the 4 P's of marketing, which is, do you go for taste, do you go for cost, do you go for convenience, does promotional aspects influence you? Females told us that if the food is not tasty, if it is not cost effective, especially around the months of March and April, when students really go hungry, I don't know what happens to the money, it just evaporates. So there is no money available. There's money available for booze, but not for food. Of course, the industry helps them to give them some happy hour options. But for females, that creates barriers which stops them from eating healthy. That seems to be less of an issue, I'm not removing the link, less of an issue for males. So we really need to target females in that fashion based on these findings. So we are battling a huge and tough competition. Here's the entrance to my university. It is offering tasty, cost-effective, and conveniently available 24/7 food. I wouldn't call that food. It's a stomach-filling activity. Sorry, I have a bias. I eat Indian food. But if we want individuals to eat healthy, we need to offer cell number 1 options through this through this food vending machine. Can I offer an apple or a banana or some kind of nice recipes right there in that vending machine, 24/7? I may have to change that apple every once in a while, because these energy bars or these options or these candies can remain there for 3 or 4 years and still actually taste well. I actually had an undergraduate student when she was graduating. She came to my office and said, "Thank you very much for everything, blah, blah, blah." And when we were talking, she was saying, "I cleaned my room and I realized I had some food in my room that I had purchased as a freshman." And I said, "Listen to me, do not eat that." But that food had survived. And you know, as a nutritionist, if a food survives for a long time, it's not good for you. And these are some of the heuristics that we need to convey to our consumers anyway. One heuristic that I always follow, and I teach my kids, 6-year-old and 2-year-old, not really happening anything right now, is do not enter the aisles of the mall, of the food store. Go through the periphery, because that's where the real food is. So we need to compete with this competition, and if you want to win, we need to win over this competition. So Jeff French, a well-known scholar of social marketing from UK, just presented this slide at the World Social Marketing Conference in Dublin, which I just attended. And I love this slide because it brings together education, marketing, and law. It also makes a few things stick to our mind. So if you bring behavioral economics with marketing, with education and law, we're putting all these things together. So there are decisions that we take actively, and there's some that we take passively. And then you can either punish individuals for not carrying out the desired behavior or reward them for carrying it out. And so if I can apply this in the physical activity and healthy diet context, you can nudge individuals if you keep food visibly available on the table in your kitchen or in the store, where as soon as you enter, all you first see is the healthy options. That's the way to nudge individuals. I do that, and I have seen an influence on my 2-year-old, because she will eat the first thing that comes in her path. And if nobody stops her, it's in her stomach. So I have realized that if you keep that food on the table of the kitchen, that goes down well. Whatever you put on the table, that's what is consumed. That's nudging. You can shove by creating roadblocks. For example, you store junk food way back in the refrigerator and put the right food in the front, or in the store, or in the dining table. So how you place, you know retail managers have done a great job of ensuring that how they put the products in the shelves. They put the profit-making foods right at the eye level of the consumer that they're trying to target. And so the candies are at the lower level because that's what the kids are attracted to. Some other stuff tends to be at a higher level if they're targeting adults. So you can create that mechanism through our own work with the cafeteria, work with the industry, to create a shoving mechanism. You can create roadblocks for the junk food industry, which is an upstream example, and shove them to punish them for being not a good citizen. You can smack them by taxing the fat, okay? Or you can smack your child, not physically. I'm told that's not a good idea. By saying no cartoon for you if you do not eat your stuff. That really works. Or no screen time, and my kid is into YouTube. My 6-year-old, I think, plays the computer better than I can do it. And so if I say no screen time to you, and some of those thousands of video games that he has online, well, those vegetables go down very well. But of course, as a social marketer, I'm into hugging. And so if you can provide financial, non-financial reward for carrying out the new behavior, a dessert after eating your fruits and vegetables, or some form of incentives, I'll play more cricket, because I'm teaching him to play cricket. If he eats well, it works very well. We need to think of all these 4 mechanisms to influence downstream individuals and upstream industry and policymakers. Of course, enough smacking and shoving occurs. I would urge you guys to do some nudging and hugging. And so if you are going to nudge and hug, you need to think like a marketer. We need to become benefit-oriented, positive behavior-oriented, and offer them benefits which are attractive, immediate, tangible, and certain. McDonald's tells us we will have a good time with our family right now, guaranteed. I don't have to wait 40 years for that. Pepsi tells me I'll feel young right now, guaranteed. I don't have to wait 40 years to feel young. That's too late anyway. So we need to follow McDonald's, Coke, and Pepsi if we really care about winning this war. And so in marketing, you have these 4 ways of addressing the behavior. You offer benefits, reduce barriers, offer convenience, and in the end, communicate this equation in a consistent manner across media. In fact, if you do a good job with the first 3 components of your strategy, promotional aspects are slightly easier to carry out because the ideas are already there. Which is why for me that 2x2 table is far more important than what color is your brochure. So in the road crew example of alternative rides, we offered them a ride from home or office to bar. So our service started at 4 p.m., not at 9 p.m. or 12 a.m. We caught them while they were still sober. We caught them when their car was still with them in the office or home. We took them to the bar, from bar to bar to bar, because that was an important ritual. And then delivered those bodies, because they had no sense left by then, home at the end of the night. And so because the car was taken away from them at the start of the evening, the service started right there. That is a consumer insight that we need to think of. We branded it as road crew. They were willing to pay $5 for a ride or $10 for unlimited number of rides in the night, which they said they are willing to pay, as opposed to $25, $30 for the taxi ride, which took 45 minutes to arrive. And so it was that mechanism of cabs was not working. However, the alternative rides that we gave was working. In fact, if you look at the website, around 95 to 100,000 rides have been given in the last 6 to 7 years in those small communities of Wisconsin. And these young men are very happy with the service. And then when we did that, promotion happened on itself. We did not really have to create too many campaigns. Journalists loved it, media picked it up, lawyers, judges, everyone was on board trying to promote this service. Did drinking go up because of the service? Did not. Why? Because they were already drinking to their maximum. Young men told us that, and they reported it through self-report data in our evaluation. So MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, was not happy with this service, but then they didn't become too vocal when they realized drinking did not go up. So this kind of service was a much better option or solution, offered them benefits right there and then than what was done before. One small tidbit, one of the communities actually purchased used limousines from Las Vegas to offer these rides to these young men for $5, which they could smoke and drink inside the limousine while they got the ride. Things don't get better than that. All right, just last couple of slides. Number 1, social product is not a behavior, not a message, not an idea. It is a bundle of benefits that are attractive to the consumers, that are offered in a tangible form or an intangible form. Okay? And finally, promotion is just one aspect of many tools that are offered in a social marketing strategy. So next time when you think of behavior change, think of nudging and hugging rather than shoving and smacking, and don't think of the color of the brochure. And yes, don't just think of downstream audience, also think of upstream audience. So here's a campaign on the left side from the UK. Salt, is your food full of it? Is a downstream campaign, but we need Campbell on board since 70% of our food comes from processed food. And this is the same message I gave to Health Canada when I was invited as a multi-stakeholder meeting on sodium consumption. All right, that's all I have to say. Thank you.